I have come up with a new direction for education, Chrysalis Experimental Schools. All schooling should have the independence of the student as the one most important goal. Students must be made to think for themselves. The science of education will help one understand the total workings of himself as a human being. One very important part of this science will be in improving our whole system of education. It needs to be restructured from bottom to top. The system we have been using for educational standards and guidelines is no longer applicable for today's times. It served most people well in the past, but it is time for a change. The children entering schools now are much more evolved than the present generation, which is in charge of the schools. An entirely new approach must be put into place. Our system has not kept pace with the evolvement of humanity. I guess I've always been interested in education. One of my earliest memories is of the first time my mother took me to the library after I turned 4. I had been there many times before, and my mother had always picked the books for me. Now, at last, I was finally allowed to pick out my own books. If I remember correctly, I was able to pick 3. I felt so proud, so thrilled, and so grown up. I remember the layout of the room, the height and length of the bookshelf, the placement of the windows, and the checkout desk, but most of all I remember the smell of the books. To this day, when I walk into a library and the smell of the books hits me, I have an instant flashback to that proud day in the library when I chose my own books for the first time. My mother tells me I've cried every morning for a year when my older sister would leave for school in the morning. She was 2 years older than I. My mother couldn't stand to go through another year of my crying before I would be old enough to start school, so she changed the date on my birth certificate and entered me into the first grade at the ripe old age of 4. I didn't attend kindergarten. Our school didn't have one. I'm not sure if any schools had them at that time. It seems that I was one of the children who needed a different system of education, the kind of school that the Chrysalis Schools that I've designed will be. I'm sure there were plenty of other people who needed them also at that time. This was 80 years ago. Therefore, I would say that our educational system is way behind in its progress. There were problems associated with starting school at the age of 4 that didn't show up until later. I was over a year younger than my classmates and became very timid and withdrawn for this reason. This plagues me to this day. I've never wanted to have to talk in front of people. Even playing the piano in public was a terrifying experience for me, all due to a lack of self-confidence. The other children were all older and bigger than I. I was able to keep up as far as learning went, but socially I didn't fit in. Even after I graduated from high school, it caused problems. At that time, in order to get a job, anyone under the age of 18 had to have a working permit. After graduation, I went to the proper county authorities and tried to get one. When they found out I was only 16, they refused to give me one. Just as I was about to leave, the superintendent of my school walked in. He vouched for the fact that I had graduated from high school, even though I had neglected to bring my diploma with me. They finally issued me the working permit. One other problem this caused was that I was going to enter nurses training. I discovered that when I graduated from nurses training, I wouldn't be able to take the state exams for a year after I graduated because you had to be 21 to take them. I was afraid that after a year went by, I wouldn't be able to pass the exam due to forgetting some of the material. For that reason, I put off entering nurses training for a year and ended up not going at all. In the future, problems like this won't arise. Children will be starting even younger than I did, but the school will be so well planned and designed that there will be an elimination of problems such as timidity. There will be a smooth flow from one class to the next and from one school to the next. Also, there will no longer be all the government red tape about being a certain age to be allowed to work or a certain age to take certification exams. For the new ideas behind this school to be workable, there are 2 premises that need to be accepted, or at least be given the benefit of the doubt, in order to gain understanding of this new direction for education. The first premise is that we all have an inner spiritual being, along with our outer physical being, and that we all have a connection to our Creator through this inner being. The second premise that these schools are based on is the reincarnation of the soul. This is not the reincarnation of your present personality, your outer being, but the reincarnation of your inner being, your soul. These two theories need to be understood in order for the beauty of this direction for education to become apparent. The Chrysalis Schools are laid out to open the door to connecting with this inner being at a very young age. Because all species are interconnected in other dimensions, knowledge eventually becomes part of the human form. The behavior becomes instinct. This is what education is all about, and our school system is not based on this theory. A child born today will not have to be taught how to add and subtract or even read for as long as a child born 40 or 50 years ago. They learn much faster. This is why the subjects given in this new school may seem too difficult and impossible to those who read them, but they will not be for these children. In many cases, it is the teachers themselves who are holding the students back by their outdated thinking that a child can't know anything. These children are born knowing most of the material that the teachers took the first 3 or 4 grades of school learning. It just needs to be extracted out of them by much more challenging but guided programs. When the next stage of math is fully in place, children will be born knowing the times table and will not have to learn them. This is happening already with some aspects of music. It will happen with other subjects as time continues. It is already happening in many areas. Those teachers today who have been teaching for many years can testify to this, but most newer teachers aren't aware that this is taking place. This is due to lack of education and knowledge about it, and biases formed in their youth by tradition and tales being passed from father to son. All teachers need to be made aware of this, so they will start looking for more signs of it. This is one of the things that has not kept progressing in our educational system. There are also 2 overriding new teaching concepts that the Chrysalis Schools will be based on to help further the opening of the creative channel. These will be A, the continued development of the brain by stretching, and B, understanding the importance of thought. The foundation for these 2 new concepts must be laid very early in a child's life, so the processes can be continued throughout all schooling. There are 12 levels of the brain, 12 dimensions of the mind, and to be able to reach them all in 12 grades of school will be impossible if the basis is not laid from the moment a child is born. We have the potential to expand and stretch the brain built into us by the Creator, but we must take this gift and learn to use it for ourselves. The totally new school system I've designed is to be used from birth through college and is based on the science of music. There will actually be 3 main divisions with large modules. Each one will focus on a different aspect of the students. The swimming pool skating rink module will serve the physical body, the gymnasium module will serve the mental body, and the auditorium model will serve the emotional body. There will be connecting modules between these that will serve the spiritual body. In the statement of mission for the school, the goal is opening the creative channel. This is to be accomplished by bringing the arts back into education. There are 4 objectives as follows. The physical body is stretching the brain, to be accomplished by understanding the human form. This will introduce studies in body thought, which will be achieved by classes in nutrition, exercise, anatomy, and competition sports. The emotional body goal is the self-esteem of the student, to be accomplished by opening the creative channel. This will introduce studies in blended thought, which will be achieved by classes in art, music, theater, and performance displays. The mental body goal is the independence of the student, to be accomplished by knowing and accepting the importance of thought. This will introduce studies in analogic thought, which will be achieved by classes in language, history, geography, math, and science. The spiritual body goal is opening to the power of the mind, to be accomplished by higher education and training. This will introduce studies in layered thought, which will be achieved by classes in the intense specialty schools in all fields. This new educational system will very subtly lead people into thinking for themselves and not just accepting thoughts that have been passed down to them through the ages from others. Philosophy is a gathering together of the thinking processes of many great humans over a period of time and should be considered exoteric or physical education. Esoteric or spiritual education would be spiritual truths, pulling thoughts and concepts out of the center of your being. Having each one pull these from their own center is perhaps a better way to put it. There will soon be much demand for those who can successfully introduce this system to the world. Because all factors of life depend on schooling, it is of the utmost importance. The goal of the Chrysalis Schools is the opening of the creative channel in children at a young age. Until they are approximately 4 years of age, children have a vivid rapport with and memories of the inner life. They remember the time period before birth and even remember their own birth passage. At this time, the sealing over the seed core, the soul memories, takes place, which makes contact with former knowledge almost impossible. To keep the sealed over memories from being entirely lost, a creative outlet needs to be started to prepare an opening from the inner being to the outer being. This should be in the realm of a creative release through the arts. Eventually, the creative channel will be wide open on children as they are born. This means that they will be able to have direct communication with the channel in a momentary cyclic process. This is the proper way for the creative channel to be trained to work. We are to be able to flip-flop from our normal everyday mind to our higher mind at any given time with no noticeable effort on our part. It is a mental process. We need to think of it as a tiny door and see the door open when we want to access our higher mind. Every class the young child is in must be geared towards the expression of self. To do this effectively, to stimulate learning and creativity, we need to establish the arts as a major part of the educational process. This would be accomplished by weaving the arts into all other subject matter. When the creative channel is opened slowly through the arts, it is a deeper and more dependable channel than on an opening that is forced by quick methods, which is the way adults usually open their channel. The creative arts are the best, safest, most sure and reliable way to open this channel in both children and adults. The arts must permeate the whole being, and the only way for this to happen is to incorporate them into the whole structure of the schools so these individuals can be taught what they are capable of learning. As given, children will be born able to use this channel in a very short time, but everyone can learn to use this creative channel. The ability to channel can be accomplished in different ways, but the arts are the best and safest, albeit the slowest. Therefore, for the future betterment of humankind, the arts must permeate the whole being. All the arts in the future will be used solely to improve humanity's emotional, mental, and physical bodies. Paintings will be used for teaching the right use of thought projections. Music will have many uses. The emotions must be intermixed with both the physical and the mental body. The most successful way for this to happen is to incorporate them into the child's earliest teaching at home and be continued throughout all systems of education. This is the key to becoming a well-adjusted human. Music. What is needed is a music singing course for each division or age. We need to access whatever skills each age group's particular brain is capable of and stimulate it in that area. For instance, the 2-year-old child's brain is capable of big motor movements as compared to little things with the fingers. The whole body should be involved as much as possible in this age group. The music course will progress according to each age division's abilities. Art. All children will be taught to paint. The beginning will be simply drawing stick figures with the pencil. As a child grows, these stick figures will actually become thought projections put on paper, and the children will be shown how their thoughts look to others. Theater. The theater will be an important part of the schools. If people today had had this great outlet for their emotions, a legitimate way to release frustrations without hurting others, the evolution of man would be much further along. Just think of the benefits to a child who is angry at a sister, brother, mother, father, or teacher. The child could write and produce his own play, and by the time it was performed, all anger would have been worked out. I'd like to paint you a short picture of what the halls of training will be like. When able to walk, the small ones are taken to these new halls of training and are introduced slowly to other children and put in groups of 12. They play games, learn to dance, and are introduced by very special games to new foods, always in an atmosphere of soft music and corresponding soft colors. Blood sugar levels of the children need to stay normal, which means there will be a snack time halfway through the morning and also a short one in the afternoon. Everyone will be taught to sing as wee small babes. Each day should begin with at least 15 to 20 minutes of singing. This would raise the vibration and open the brain to the learning mode. The science of the universe will be introduced at a very young age, and the children will be taught or shown to think of Earth as a spaceship, or rather a space station. Gym classes would incorporate exercise programs based on the movements of animals. Let your mind wander to all that can be learned by watching the animals. The theater is one of the best ways to teach children wrong attitudes and behavior. The Chrysalis Schools will be assisting children in the expression of their individuality, not the expression of their personality, and there truly is a great difference. Personality is made up of that ugly monster ego, while individuality is made up of the beautiful inner being. To express individuality takes great self-esteem and self-confidence. To express the personality takes neither. All it takes is a physical body. The use of the creative channel is the ultimate goal of all schooling. The most successful way of opening this creative channel in everyone will be by actual hands-on creative expression every day of their life, beginning at the youngest age possible. This is the goal and ultimate purpose of the Chrysalis Schools, the opening of this creative channel.